Okay, so there's been a shocking new development in Prince Harry's lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers. He is suing the company for multiple unlawful acts committed from the mid-90s up until about 2016. In court documents, he's now alleged that his brother, Prince William, received a large sum of money from News Group in 2020 as a part of a settlement in his own phone hacking lawsuit. In his witness statement, he wrote, "My brother appeared to know an awful lot more than I did on the subject of phone hacking, although he did not tell me if that was the case. However, News Group still settled his claim for a huge sum of money in 2020 without subjecting him to a similar strikeout application, without any of the public being told, and seemingly with some favorable deal in return for him going quietly, so to speak." At this point, you might be wondering, why is Harry even bringing up William at all? Some people felt like he was just trying to undermine him again, and the rest of the royal family, at a time when they're trying to do a bit of damage control before the king's coronation. But according to sources close to the prince, that wasn't his intention at all. From his perspective, the News Group might try to say that his claim should have been brought years ago, so he decided to bring up William's recent deal purely as a defensive measure. He didn't want his claim to get shut down on the grounds that too many years have passed since the phone hacking took place. So why didn't he go through this lawsuit sooner? Well, he says that Charles seemingly blocked any legal action that he wanted to take. He said it was all a part of a bigger plan to fix their image. Harry wrote, "They had a specific long-term strategy to keep the media on side in order to smooth the way for my stepmother and to be accepted by the British public. When the time came, and anything that might upset the apple cart in this regard was to be avoided at all costs." Harry also called the executives at News Group criminals masquerading as journalists and said that the tabloids are brainwashing the British public. Elsewhere in his statement, he wrote, "People die as a result of trolling, and people will continue to take their own lives when they can't see any other way out. How much more blood will stain their typing fingers before someone can put a stop to this madness?" In a shocking twist, Harry also turned his ire towards Piers Morgan. He's now accused the TV presenter of illegally targeting his mother, Princess Diana, back when he worked as an editor of News of the World in the mid-90s. In court documents, he claims that Piers knew about, encouraged, and concealed this kind of illegal activity. He says that his mother's private text messages and phone calls were all obtained by journalists who were working for Rupert Murdoch's newspapers, and he said that that information was then used for multiple stories in The Sun and News of the World. Harry listed a number of articles that were published during Piers Morgan's time as an editor. This was between January of 1994 and August of 1995. He says that these articles are the result of illegal information gathering. For his part, Piers has always denied any direct knowledge of phone hacking during his time as an editor. 30 years later, he now hosts a nightly show on Murdoch's Talk TV channel, and he's become infamous for his hatred of Meghan Markle. In fact, that's the reason he quit Good Morning Britain in 2021, because he came under fire for making horrible comments about her. So it's really interesting that Piers has now been named in this new phone hacking lawsuit. It almost seems like a revenge move. Okay, now I'm gonna bring you guys up to speed about what's going on between Olivia Wilde and Emily Ratajkowski, because it's getting really messy. A few weeks ago, Emily was spotted on the streets of Tokyo making out with Olivia's ex Harry Styles. The two of them were seen leaning against a silver van and kissing in plain sight. As expected, that video went viral and it sent Harry's dedicated fan base into a spiral. Shortly after the news went public, it was reported that Harry was seeing someone and things seemed to be going well. The report did not mention Emily by name, but it was assumed to be about her. Neither of them spoke about the kiss until now. A few days ago, Emily did an interview with Vogue Spain where she addressed the whole video. She was mainly defending herself against Harry's massive fan base and asserting her need for privacy, but in doing so, she made a tasteless comment about Olivia. She said, "I feel bad for Olivia because she has to suffer this situation on several occasions." Yes, she really said that. While she probably had good intentions, that comment came off as a little condescending. An inside source close to the actress then spoke to Daily Mail. They said, "Emily shouldn't feel bad for Olivia. She should re-examine her dating life and the men she chooses to go out with. She should really just focus on being a mom. Olivia just wants Emily to keep her name out of her mouth." The source went on to claim that this situation was some kind of betrayal, seeing that the two women used to be friends, or at least they were friendly with each other. They once partied together at one of Harry's concerts, and just weeks before the viral video, they were spotted hanging out at the Vanity Fair Oscars after party. Now, they might not have been the best friends, but they were still close enough with each other that Emily was thought to be breaking girl code. Now, their relationship has apparently gone down the drain because it's been said that the two women are not on speaking terms at all. Later on in her Vogue interview, Emily denied the rumor that they had any type of confrontation, and she said that the video was just an unfortunate issue issue. What's really interesting is that she compared this situation with Harry's styles to Adam Levine's cheating scandal last year, where he was caught having an affair with a young Instagram model named Summer Stroh. Emily was one of her biggest defenders at the time and claimed that the backlash against her was just misogyny, seeing that Adam was actually the one who was married. But it was this part of the interview that had fans divided more than anything else. One person tweeted, "I think Rata is wrong about how women shouldn't be blamed for men's mistakes, but only in the one context of her kiss with Harry, because they both consented to that kiss, so it isn't just his mistake. But in any other context, she's completely correct." Despite the fact that they were seen kissing in a public street, Emily said that she was surprised the pictures of her and Harry went viral. Quote, "It's very bizarre to have certain experiences and then have the whole world know about them and comment on them. I'm just a person who's gone from a 3-year relationship to a 4-year relationship, so this is the first time in a long time I've been in the dating stage." She insisted that most of her life is actually focused on her son and her work, but she does understand that those things don't inspire the same flashy headlines. The 31-year-old actress has been romantically linked to multiple A-listers recently, like Pete Davidson and Eric Andre, but despite the fact that she's been dating some very high-profile people, she never really considered the fact that she would have to give up so much of her privacy just for another shot at love. Emily also spoke at length about dating as a single mom. She said it's very difficult because a lot of guys will just try and slip into that father role without actually realizing what a big decision it is. The idea is that a lot of men don't actually consider the responsibilities of being a step-parent before they decide to start dating someone with kids. Some people think that she was kind of talking about Harry and Olivia's relationship when she said that, but she was most likely just talking from experience. And now let's talk about the real reason that Don Lemon got fired. In a shocking turn of events, the longtime CNN anchor was let go from the network on Monday. The CEO released a statement saying, "Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, and we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. We wish him well and will be cheering for him on his future endeavors." Now that is a very nice way of saying he got dropped like a hot potato. This news seemed to have surprised everyone, including Lemon himself. He made a post on Twitter saying, "I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network." In response to his tweet, a representative of CNN said that he was offered a chance to meet with management, but instead he decided to release a statement on Twitter. So obviously he knew that he was getting fired anyway and decided to put the company on blast. His termination is shocking, but it's not completely unexpected. For several months now, he's been plagued by accusations of misogyny and misbehavior. In February, he made some unsolicited comments about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. In that particular segment, they were discussing the question of how old is too old to run for president, and Lemon criticized Nikki's age. He said that at 51 years old, she isn't in her prime. He said, "When a woman is considered to be in her prime, it's her 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s. I'm just saying what the facts are. Google it." Of course, he was challenged by his female co-host who said, "Are you talking about prime for childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?" But he never clarified his comments. Instead, he just tried to change the subject. As you can probably imagine, his comments sparked widespread outrage online. No one was okay with the casual sexism that was implied with his statements. After all, how could you criticize a presidential contender for being 50 years old when the current president was voted in at the age of 78? Talk about double standard. Even Michelle Yeoh spoke out against Lemon in her Oscars acceptance speech, where she said, "Ladies, don't let anyone tell you you're ever past your prime." After that, Lemon tried to do a bit of damage control by putting out an apology statement and saying that he regretted his inartful and irrelevant comments. He also apologized to the newsroom and agreed to partake in mandatory training to address the incident. But it's safe to say that he never really won back his female viewers. It was a pretty bad look for a morning news show where the audience is primarily women and the anchors try to depict themselves as one big happy family. In fact, his comments ended up costing CNN a bunch of advertising sales, and producers actually struggled to find guests for the show. Add that to the fact that the ratings were going down, and you can see why the network was getting sick of him. 2 months later, things got even worse for Lemon when Variety released a bombshell report that called his entire reputation into question. It showed a long history of misogynistic behavior towards his female colleagues. The report was based on more than a dozen former and current employees at the network, who described him as openly hostile towards women. In one instance, he allegedly called a producer fat to her face, mocked and mimicked the voice of another colleague, and sent threatening texts to someone else. Of course, Lemon denied the accusations. In a statement to NBC News, he said, "It's amazing and disappointing that Variety would would be so reckless. The story, which is riddled with patently false anecdotes and no concrete evidence, is entirely based on unsourced, unsubstantiated 15-year-old anonymous gossip. But whatever the case, he genuinely had no idea that he was going to be fired. On Monday, he showed up to work like normal, went to the morning show, and was able to host the whole program without any hesitation. It was only later that day when the news broke out. Lemon has since hired an entertainment lawyer to address his contract with CNN, which was signed to last until 2026. He joined the network in 2006 after working for a local NBC station in Chicago. For over 8 years, he hosted the primetime show Don Lemon Tonight, but he then got moved when the network launched CNN This Morning last November. Some people close to him have suggested that the morning job was essentially a demotion. But even if that seems to be the case, the official story is that he left the primetime slot to help get the morning show on its feet. News of his departure has been met with mixed reactions. His former co-hosts Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins were clearly sad to see him go. Meanwhile, other people like Donald Trump openly praised the decision to fire him. He posted on Truth Social saying, "Good news, the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon, has finally been fired from fake news CNN. My only question is, what took them so long?" Right now, it's unclear what Lemon is going to do next. He might bring a lawsuit against the network or just cut his losses and try to move on. Either way, it's way too early to tell. First off, Adult Swim has officially cut ties with Justin Roiland, following news that he has been charged with felony domestic violence against a former girlfriend. The Cartoon Network released a statement saying, "Adult Swim has ended its association with Justin Roiland. Rick and Morty will continue. The talented and dedicated crew are hard at work on season 7. This news might come as a shock to fans of the show, because if you didn't know, Justin is currently awaiting trial for an incident that occurred in January of 2020, which resulted in him being charged with 1 felony count of domestic battery with corporal injury and 1 felony count of false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and deceit against the woman who he was living with at the time. Justin pleaded not guilty to the charges in October of 2020 and appeared in court recently for a pre-trial hearing. If he is found guilty, he could face up to 7 years in prison. His attorney T. Edward Wellburn released a statement saying, "To be clear, not only is Justin innocent, but we also have every expectation that this matter is on course to be dismissed once the district attorney's office has completed its methodical review of the evidence. We look forward to clearing Justin's name and helping him move forward as swiftly as possible." Back in August of 2020, Justin was arrested and released on a $50,000 bond. He was arraigned that October and a protective order was filed, stating that he is not to threaten or surveil the woman involved, and he also cannot go within 100 feet of her. Now, this news certainly comes as a surprise to Rick and Morty fans, as it's one of the most popular adult cartoon comedies ever created. The show's 6th season aired in September last year, and a 7th season was ordered by Cartoon Network as a part of a long-term deal for 70 new episodes. So Adult Swim isn't even halfway through a massive episode order for the show. Justin co-created the series with Dan Harmon and voiced the 2 main characters. We now know that his roles will be recast and Dan will go forward as the lone showrunner. Voices across social media have since wondered what the show will end up being and if Rick and Morty will ever be the same without him. But the internet has already championed a successor. Out of all of the potential imitators online, voice actor Sean Kelly has frequently come up as a suitable replacement in the comment threads, thanks in part to all of his TikTok videos. The content creator recently hopped online to thank fans for their support, and he might even be campaigning for the job based on his latest uploads. Sean Kelly has a number of viral videos imitating Rick Sanchez, Morty Smith, and other characters voiced by Justin. He uploaded a video recently of his phone scrolling through the many comments of people requesting that he become the next voice of the iconic characters. And while he hasn't publicly advocated for Adult Swim to hire him as the replacement, he's not dissuading anyone from continuing to advocate on his behalf. Now, obviously he's not a dead ringer when it comes to voicing Rick Sanchez, but it's close enough that most fans might forgive the difference, although everyone can agree that he's incredible at the Morty voice. While Sean Kelly might be a strong candidate to voice the Rick and Morty leads, it's hard to know whether or not he'll actually be offered the job, but whoever takes up the role has some big shoes to fill, and it's more than likely that they will be harshly criticized for even daring to replace the lead actor, whose legacy is so closely tied to the show. For instance, Elon Musk has already voiced his support for Justin to stay. He took to Twitter in protest following the announcement and called him the heart of the show. In fact, Elon is not only a fan of Rick and Morty, but he's also had a cameo in one episode as the character Elon Tusk, which was a hilarious play on his own larger-than-life personality. So we're already starting to see a little bit of pushback when it comes to replacing Justin Roiland. But will it be enough out to boycott the show. That's something that remains to be seen. Next up, the internet has been taking sides in the ongoing beef between Vanessa Hudgens and her ex-boyfriend Austin Butler. There's so much to get into here. Last week, Ryan Scott shared an Instagram post which featured an article about Austin Butler's viral Elvis accent. He captioned the post saying, "He went to the Lady Gaga School of Oscar Campaign Acting." In response, Vanessa took to the comment section and wrote the word "crying." Her reaction came from the fact that Austin's voice coach said his new accent might be here to stay. If you've seen any of the videos or interviews with Austin at the recent Golden Globes, you might have noticed that he still sounds a lot like Elvis. In fact, many people have noted that despite the fact that he's from California, he still sounds like he's from the Deep South. This is because learning a new accent is incredibly demanding. It's a rigorous process that often requires you to listen deeply to documentaries, movies, and interviews to get down those linguistic details. Austin worked with a dialect coach starting months or years before filming. Regardless of how long it took him to nail the accent, when the movie came out and all of his promotional appearances were over, fans couldn't help making fun of the fact that he still sounded like Elvis. And Vanessa was clearly game to join in on the jokes, but she wasn't being mean to her ex just for the sake of it. The fact is, she played a really big part in getting him the role of a lifetime when they were still dating. And after they broke up, he pretty much did not give her any credit at all. Before they called it quits, Vanessa went on live with Kelly and Ryan and explained the story. She said, "Last December we were driving along and we were listening to Christmas music, and then an Elvis Presley Christmas song came on. He had just dyed his hair dark and he's a natural blonde. And I was looking at him and he was singing along and I was like, babe, you need to play Elvis." At the time, the actress said that she was so proud of him for his major career move after he officially got cast in July of 2019. She said, "He's always been so inspiring to me, like his work ethic is compared to no one. I'm always so in awe of him and I'm so excited that this is happening for him." Now, it's true that Austin put his heart and soul into the role, which earned him his first ever Golden Globe win earlier this month. He used that win to give a shout out to Priscilla Presley and the late Lisa Marie Presley while accepting his honor. But fans noticed that he did not mention Vanessa at all. During the Hollywood Reporter Actors Roundtable, he told a nearly identical story to Vanessa, but he noticeably left her name out of the conversation. This pissed a lot of people off. He said, "The month before I heard that Baz was making the movie, I was going to look at Christmas lights with a friend, and there was an Elvis Christmas song on the radio, and I was singing along. And my friend looked over at me and goes, 'You've got to play Elvis.' And I said, 'Oh, that's such a long shot.'" He went on to say, "A couple weeks later, I was playing the piano. I never really sang for any of my friends or anything. That same friend was there and I was playing the piano." She said, "I'm serious. You gotta figure out how you can get the rights to a script." Then my agent called and said, "So Baz Luhrmann is making an Elvis film." Now, obviously he was talking about his girlfriend of almost a decade there, but for whatever reason, he chose to pretty much erase her from the story. So while everyone was thrilled for Austin, there were plenty of fans online who wanted to emphasize that this may not have happened without the encouragement of Vanessa. But it seems like he heard the criticism finally. The actor recently spoke to the LA Times and clarified his story, saying, "I was with my partner at the time. We'd been together for so long and she had this sort of clairvoyant moment, and so I really owe her a lot for believing in me." And even though he once again did not mention her by name, at least he gave us a little more clarity. And now, did you know that on TikTok there is a new meaning for the word mascara? One thing about the app is that people will use code words to discuss certain dating topics, and they will hide the meaning behind what they're actually talking about because they want to keep it a secret. Over the past few weeks, you might have seen a number of viral TikTok videos of girls talking about mascara with lengthy captions discussing how much they like their mascara, how long they've had their mascara, or how their mascara has betrayed them. But just based on the comments and the captions, it's clear that these videos are not about the actual mascara. They're about relationships, and mascara is being used as a code word for someone's partner. The majority of videos are using the word to refer to male partners, with people commenting all kinds of innuendos, like saying that their mascara stuck its wand into other tubes. Other comments also point out that their mascara doesn't have a wand, meaning that their partner is a woman. Other people are jumping on the trend to talk about their long-term relationships. Someone made a video saying, "I've had my mascara since I was 14. I'm now 24. Only mascara I've ever tried, but I know there's this one anywhere else. I've even made a similar version because I like it so much." And of course, the code word is also being used for people that want to talk about how their partner has hurt them. One user wrote, "The one mascara I ever really liked ended up damaging my eyelashes really badly, so now I'm too scared to try any new mascaras because I can't take my eyelashes being damaged again." Often the videos include a PSA in the brackets and a hashtag stating, "This isn't about mascara." The trend has also been a safe haven for women, allowing them to open up and share their romantic experiences, including the good, the bad, and the disappointing. While yes, it's a great idea for people who want to talk about their partners without making it too obvious, the trend has actually gotten Julia Fox in a lot of hot water. One user by the name of BigWhip13 made a TikTok saying, "I gave this one girl mascara one time and it must have been so good that she decided that her and her best friend should both try it without my consent." He included the hashtags SA awareness and men speak up. Obviously this guy was using the trend to share a very traumatic experience, but it seemed like Julia didn't get the memo before she commented on the post. Fans were shocked when she wrote, "I don't feel bad for you." In response, the creator wrote, "You don't feel bad that I was SA'd?" Since posting her remark, Julia has been embroiled in controversy and was said to be deleting comments that asked her to address the statement. At the time, it was unclear whether or not she knew about the new mascara trend and instead believed that he was literally talking about mascara. If you don't get it, here's why her comment is a big deal. Unfortunately, men are less likely to report their victimization due to gender-based stigmas, which means they are less likely to seek help if they do get SA'd. So of course when this guy shared his story on TikTok and Julia said that she straight up doesn't believe him, you can see why that would be a bit problematic. But it seemed like she genuinely didn't know that he wasn't talking about the makeup at all, and when she realized where she went wrong, she wrote, "Hey babe, I'm so sorry, I really thought you were talking about mascara, like as in the makeup." Fans have now come out in support of Julia on Twitter, considering that it was just an honest mistake. Someone wrote, "I read it as makeup too. Expecting someone to know this is code and then condone them for not knowing is just absurd." Another person tweeted, "How was she supposed to know what it meant? Not everyone knew about this trend, so she's innocent." And that's probably what the case was for this one.
Number 10, Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy is now considering herself cancelled forever, and her social media presence just hasn't been the same since. The supermodel, who was once called the Queen of Twitter, got exposed and cancelled on the very same platform. She got in trouble for a comment made towards Courtney Stodden. Courtney first gained fame in 2011 when at the age of 16 they got married to their acting coach who was 50 at the time. Though they are now divorced, but in 2011 it was widely mocked. In the past, people would make jokes at their expense. But it seems Chrissy was the one who was really the leader of the mean tweets sent to Courtney. Courtney has since revealed that all the tweets Chrissy sent them at the beginning of the 2010s, with one saying, "My Friday fantasy, you dirt nap, baby." But in another tweet she wrote, "I hate you." It was also reported that Chrissy told Courtney that they deserved to pass away. When Courtney exposed these tweets, they said in an Instagram video, "It really affected me. It's so damaging when you have someone like Chrissy Teigen bullying." After this story went viral, it was reported that Chrissy's cookware line disappeared from Macy's, and that Bloomingdale's dropped out of their deal as well. Chrissy also bowed out of the planned cleaning products line with Kris Jenner and was replaced as a narrator on the show Never Have I Ever. Since this, Chrissy has admitted she feels depressed because of this and shared in an interview in 2021, "Going outside sucks and doesn't feel right. Being at home alone with my mind makes me depressed and my head race." But she also ended up posting an apology thread on Twitter, which said, "I'm mortified and sad at who I used to be, but that is nothing compared to how I made Courtney feel." Number 9, David Dobrik. The YouTube star and Vlog Squad member sparked outrage after showing evidence of a very problematic behavior within his videos. After SA allegations emerged and the story went viral, David started losing subscribers and sponsorships, even pushing him to release an apology video. Even with this, people weren't convinced. The real hit for viewers was after an insider article posted an account of SA performed by a member of the Vlog Squad, which was part of David's video. Following these allegations, Trisha Paytas even verified that what the victim said was true, even telling her Twitter followers that the evidence is in the video. Another former employee and members claimed that David was a bully who would constantly push people to do things that they didn't want to in order to get content. Because of these allegations, David lost endorsements with companies such as HelloFresh, DoorDash, SeatGeek. The DoorDash spokesperson came forward and in a statement to NBC News, they shared, "This horrific misconduct is not what DoorDash's values and does not represent the communities we strive to create." Going on to say, "Our thoughts are with those impacted." These situations pushed the YouTuber to take a hiatus following the backlash he was receiving. But after briefly coming back to YouTube, he left once again and now just posts primarily on TikTok. Number 8. Jeffree Star. Allegations made against Jeffree have been pretty rough. Accusations have included resurfaced videos showing up of Jeffree using racist and very offensive language. This has also come around the time that Shane Dawson, a friend and fellow YouTube and collaborator, was being exposed for some pretty insensitive and offensive content as well. The two ended up finding themselves in some pretty hot water after the YouTube creator, Tati Westbrook, accused them of gaslighting and manipulating her into a public feud with James Charles, which ended up with him losing millions of subscribers. But this YouTube drama didn't just stay on YouTube and spread to some pretty bad financial repercussions. Both Shane and Jeffree ended up getting a pretty extreme backlash, and the makeup brand Morphe decided to cut ties with the beauty guru. Morphe posted a statement on Twitter which said, "Today we made the decision to cease all commercial activity related to Jeffree Star and affiliated products." Not long after this statement went out, Jeffree Star Cosmetics released its own statement saying, "We are shocked and extremely saddened by this decision." Number 7. Good Morning America. The Good Morning America affair was the beginning and the end for the co-anchors. Last year, the Good Morning America co-anchors TJ Holmes and Amy Robach both left their partners after having a months-long affair with one another, according to many reports. A source told Page 6 at the time, "They were very cozy in their relationship. That is what is expected. They were very careful behind the scenes to keep their affair a secret." Part of what really put the two in hot water was getting spotted looking pretty close in a bar near ABC News. Not long after that, they were photographed going on a weekend getaway just 2 weeks before they were set to have Thanksgiving with their respective families. After the affair went public, it was reported that they were both temporarily suspended from the show while the network undertook an investigation to make sure the affair didn't violate company policy. But it wasn't long after this investigation that the company came out with a statement that said, "After several productive conversations with Amy and TJ about different options, we all agree it's best for everyone that they move on from ABC News." Seems that it ended up all working out for TJ and Amy though, who are still together and have been reported to be going strong and are very much in love. Number 6. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, a provocative conservative primetime host, has been recently pushed off of Fox Network. The network came out with a statement that didn't go much into detail about what happened that said, "Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We want to thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor." Apparently Tucker didn't know he was being fired until about 10 minutes before it was announced, and it seemed to have all been decided by Rupert Murdoch, the Fox owner. So what happened? According to the LA Times, his departure is in relation to a discrimination lawsuit that was filed by Abby Grossberg, who was a former senior booking producer. She claimed that she faced sexism and that it was a hostile working environment. Not only that, but Rupert had concerns about Tucker after he shared his idea of the January 6th attack on Congress, arguing that it wasn't a riot. During the show, Tucker showed footage saying, "It does not show an insurrection of a riot in progress, but mostly peaceful chaos," leading a few to believe that he wasn't credible, and a White House spokesperson agreed. Tucker even promoted a conspiracy theory that the whole thing was provoked by government agents. Even the New York Times were slightly concerned over Tucker and wrote about him last year saying, "Mr. Carlson has constructed and maybe the most racist show in history of cable news, and by some measures the most successful." Number 5. DaBaby. The rapper DaBaby ended up arguing a large community of people after being accused of making homophobic remarks at a music festival in Miami back in 2021. He said to the crowd, "If you didn't show up today with HIV or AIDS, or any of them deadly sexually transmitted diseases that'll make die in 2 to 3 weeks, then put a cell phone in the air." He even added saying, "Fellas, if you ain't sucking D in the parking lot, put a cell phone in the air." When he realized the negativity he was receiving, he tried to justify it and clarify his views, saying he has gay friends who are disease-free, saying they are not nasty gay junkies. He basically got torn apart for this by the LGBTQ+ community, and as well as Madonna, Elton John, and Dua Lipa. He also had to deal with Boohoo Man, which immediately dropped him. Not only that, but he was kicked out of the 2021 Lollapalooza tour and had a concert cancelled in Atlanta. Number 4. Don Lemon. A firing that some have called a great day for women everywhere was just recently when the CNN anchor was fired after 17 years with the network. This comes after Don said on air that the 51-year-old Republican Nikki Haley was not in her prime. This remark was widely seen as sexist and received quite a bit of backlash. Don issued an apology on the same day, saying how he regretted his comment and agreed to go to mandatory training to address the situation. Don's reputation hasn't been great though. Earlier in April, a report from Variety came out, alleging more accusations of misogynistic behavior. They reported that he called a producer fat to her face, mocked a colleague, and even claiming that that Dawn sent out a threatening text to another person in the workplace, which a representative for Dawn has denied. He isn't new to controversy though, and faced quite a bit of outrage for saying that the men's soccer team should be paid more than the women's because they are more interesting to watch. Looks like these comments really did catch up to him, but Dawn was still in disbelief, writing on Twitter, "I am stunned." Number 3. Marilyn Manson. A couple that many really didn't see coming was Evan Rachel Wood and Marilyn Manson. After going public with their relationship when Evan was just 19 and Manson was 36, they ended up dating on and off for about 3 years before eventually breaking up. 6 years after the breakup, Evan shared how she experienced SA twice within the relationship. Revealing this during the Me Too movement, she decided to keep their identities private at the time. She explained saying, "People are wondering why more women don't come forward sooner. They do not feel safe enough to do so. I'm guilty of this as well because I have not named my abusers and I want to do it when I'm ready." 2 years after this video came out, Evan seemed to be ready to share more about her experiences and wrote a series of emotional Instagram posts. She named Marilyn Manson as the main abuser and went on to describe a pretty upsetting story of manipulation and violence. This resulted in more than a dozen women coming forward with allegations against Marilyn. This led to his record label dropping him, as well as his role in the show American Gods being cut. Not only that, but his manager ended up leaving him and radio stations reduced his airplay significantly. Number 2. Lea Michele. Lea has had allegations surrounding her of being a mean girl for a minute now, but allegations made on Twitter really seem to be the nail in the coffin. She began getting some heat over the past couple of years for being mean-spirited on the set of Glee, which she did later apologize for, but it didn't seem to end there. Her former co-star Heather Morris started speaking up back in 2021 as to why it took so long to come forward with their allegations. She said, "We absolutely could have stepped up and gone to Fox executives and said how we felt about the situation, but nobody really did. So now we are living in a culture where it's acceptable to go and do things like that." Whereas I think many people were scared. These allegations against Lea first started to come out in 2020 when Samantha Ware, who also played a role in Glee, spoke out against her on Twitter. She expressed how awful Lea made her time on the Glee set, even saying that the microaggressions made her question her whole career in Hollywood. When the tweet went viral, Lea's partnership with the food service HelloFresh decided to completely end their contract. This tweet ended up inspiring other Glee stars to come forward with their feelings about Lea. Heather wrote on Twitter saying, "Hate is a disease in America that we are trying to cure, so I would never wish that hate to be spread to someone else." With that being said, was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for so long, I believe she should be called out. An extra for the show took this opportunity to come forward as well, saying that Lea referred to her and other extras as cockroaches. She even went as far as to tell them not to look at her while the cameras weren't filming. Lea never denied these allegations, but instead wrote an apology on Instagram, saying, "While I don't remember ever making this specific statement, that's not really the point. What matters is that I clearly acted in ways which hurt other people." And at number 1, we have Ellen DeGeneres. Now known as the interview that really ended it all for Ellen was the one with Dakota Johnson. Dakota is not one to back down from a fight, and she proved that when she raged a bit of a war on The Ellen Show. In November 2019, Dakota made an appearance on the show to promote her new movies, and it soon went viral for just how cringeworthy the whole thing was. Dakota was accused by Ellen for not inviting her to her 30th birthday party, but Dakota fought back and said, "Actually, no, Ellen, you were invited." Going on to say, "Last time I was on the show last year, you gave me a bunch of S about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited. I didn't even know you liked me." From there, it really only gets more uncomfortable, so when Ellen announced her retirement from the show, many viewers speculated that it could have all begun with this one interview. But as this interview started gaining more and more views, it ended up opening the door for more allegations against Ellen for just not being the greatest person. Reportedly, the allegations against the workplace environment on the set of her show is really what lost her the viewers. The allegations included intimidation, bullying, and misconduct. This ended up causing an internal investigation and eventually led to the end of her show. When speaking to The Hollywood Reporter about the ending of her show, she said, "When you're a creative person, you constantly need to be challenged. And as great as this show is, and as fun as it is, it's just not a challenge anymore." Regardless of what Ellen says, many fans believe it was the interview with Dakota that was the end of her career. With one fan tweeting, "Ellen trying to convince us that her show is ending because of a lack of creativity. We all know it was Dakota Johnson who really ended it."
Over the weekend, Pete Davidson was caught on camera having a very uncomfortable interaction with a fan. He was attending an NBA game in New York City, watching the Knicks playoff against the Cleveland Cavaliers at Madison Square Gardens. At one point, Pete was spotted in the crowd meeting fans after the game. He was taking the time to pose for some photos and videos with other Knicks fans. But while he's taking a selfie with one fan fan, an older-looking man approaches him and tries to put his arm around him. It seems like he was trying to tell Pete something, but it was difficult to know what it was. Pete didn't react at first, but when the man got closer, he angrily pushed him away. It's not clear whether the man said something to him when he approached him, but it looks like he completely overstepped his boundaries while he was already taking pictures with fans. The actor then went back to taking selfies with other people before trying to shake off the interaction. So it's possible that he said something inappropriate or downright creepy. This might actually be the case because another video posted to TikTok shows a different angle of the incident. You can see that the man grabs Pete several times and tries to lay his head on his shoulder. He even looks like he's trying to kiss him at one point. Judging by his facial expressions, you can tell that Pete was really uncomfortable about this whole thing. So there was definitely something weird going on. Unfortunately, this kind of thing happens to celebrities way too often. Some fans have no concept of boundaries or personal space, and they only think about getting their picture taken above all else. It's impossible to know what this guy's motives really were, but there was something really icky about it. Although Pete was physically capable of pushing him away, it doesn't make the interaction any less scary. It also ruins the experience for other fans who genuinely just want to meet him and get a nice photo. This latest news comes 1 week after it was revealed that Pete would be making his SNL hosting debut on May the 6th, which is a pretty big deal given the fact that he has recently criticized the show for making a mockery of his love life. When he went on John Berthnell's podcast, he said that he hated the fact that his relationships became a punchline to the writers and other comedians. This left him feeling like a loser and made him super insecure. While he was on SNL, he would often poke fun at himself and his relationships during the Weekend Update segment, but when other people took these references and made them into other sketches, that's what really made him feel terrible about himself. Pete explained the feeling of sitting in the back and watching the cold open and having to hear himself being mocked by the person on stage. He said, "Then you've got to walk out and do a sketch next and hit your mark, and the show just made fun of you, like they just dogged you in front of everyone, and you're like, I'm an effing loser, man." He claimed that it was these kinds of jokes that made him feel small and insecure. He eventually quit the show in May last year, but not before putting the writers on blast. He said, "I personally think I should be done with that show because they make fun of me on it. I'm just fodder now. If I'm just fodder now, maybe I shouldn't be there. They think I'm effing dumb, like I'm literally painted to be this big dumb idiot." So Pete obviously had a whole lot of pent-up resentment from years of being the butt of every joke, but he doesn't seem to have anything against other cast members or even the show's creator Lorne Michaels, which means hopefully we might one day see him make a full-fledged return to SNL. Alright, now did you hear what Meghan Trainor just said about teachers? Because it's made a whole lot of people very angry. The 29-year-old singer had Trisha Paytas on her Working On It podcast. In that particular episode, they discussed the failures of the education system in America. They talked about their worries about teachers and potential bullies. Although most viewers expected Trisha to be the one to say something questionable, like she always does, it was actually Meghan this time. They were talking about how awful some teachers can be, and in response, Meghan straight up said F teachers. She also insisted that she would not be sending her kids to public schools because of all the violence. Overall, her comments made her seem extremely out of touch, given the fact that most parents simply can't afford to send their kids anywhere apart from public school. Unsurprisingly, fans flooded TikTok and other social media platforms to call her out. One person retweeted the video and wrote, "Hearing Meghan Trainor talk dismissively about public schools is so disappointing. So many students have had to go to public school because they don't have the money or accessibility for private school or homeschooling. Teachers are superheroes doing the best for their kids." Another person wrote, "Meghan Trainor, before bashing teachers and public schools, think about why resources are so limited and why parents have kids bring bulletproof backpacks to school. You both have influence and platforms that can help you bring about actual change." Meghan was then called out by a TikToker named Sujia who posted a video putting her comments on blast. She said, "The thing I want to talk about most is the privilege with which you speak those words. You're never going to have to know what it feels like to send your kids to school because you have the privilege to keep them at home and to most likely hire someone to teach them for you if you wanted to. Most of us do not have that privilege. You're being so flippant about the whole thing and it was really gross to me." Suji went on to criticize Meghan for her toxic mindset and said, "When you say F teachers, those are the people who parents like me and most parents rely on to help protect our kids because we're not there. In a lot of cases, teachers have given up their lives to protect the lives of children." That video has since gone viral and it's very clear that everyone agrees with her. Meghan clearly heard the complaints because she then took to TikTok to post an apology video. In the way that many other apology videos start, she was barefaced and seemed to be emotional about the response to her comments. She said, "Teachers of TikTok and teachers of the world, I recently said F teachers on a podcast, and it's not how I feel. I was fired up because we were talking about sending your kids to school here in America, and it's so horrific. Meghan admitted that she did not mean to say that about all teachers, because she loves teachers in general and she fights for them. She said, I think they have the hardest job and they are the most underpaid. They're the most unappreciated when they literally raise all of us. I don't want to make any excuses, I just want to say I'm sorry. The comment section of her video was really interesting. It opened up a wider discussion about issues that teachers are facing right now. Some people were saying they are just simply exhausted by the disrespect, because Meghan has the exact same perspective as some of their students and their parents have towards them. Not only that, but this kind of sentiment is part of the reason that more than 3/4 of the US states are experiencing a teacher shortage. There's so many reasons for this, like issues with low pay, heavier workloads, declining prestige, and deteriorating faculty morale. Don't forget the mounting academic pressures, and of course health and safety concerns. So many of these problems were exacerbated during the pandemic, and they're still getting worse to this day. So really, Meghan's comments were completely uncalled for, but at least they brought a little more attention to something that is shaping up to be a massive issue in the nation. Alright, now did you hear that Tucker Carlson was just fired? The longtime Fox News host has officially been kicked off the network. This exit is a surprising move, and it was not expected at all, seeing that he was their most popular primetime host. Fox News released a statement on Monday saying, Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. Mr. Carlson's last program was Friday the 21st of April. Fox News Tonight will air live at 8 p.m. starting this evening as an interim show helmed by rotating Fox News personalities until a new host is named. We thank him for his service to the network as a host. What's really interesting is that Carlson seemingly had no idea that he was going to be let go. He signed off on Friday's show by wishing viewers the best weekend and telling them that he would be back on Monday. So he was probably caught off guard just as much as everyone else. But if you take a look at what's been happening at Fox News lately, it starts to make a whole lot more sense. Just last week, the network settled an epic defamation lawsuit by paying Dominion Voting Systems more than $787 million. This is because in 2020, they were responsible for spreading the bogus theory that Donald Trump was cheated out of the presidency because of election fraud. No one at Fox News spread this idea more than Tucker Carlson. His show was said to have a massive role in spreading misinformation about the election, so of course he became the focus of the lawsuit. During the discovery phase of the trial, documents were made public and they revealed a clear divide between what he said on air versus what he said behind the scenes. Publicly, he had nothing but praise for Donald Trump and said things like he was the greatest president ever and he has fought as hard as he could to make sure everyone in America was treated equally under the law. But privately, Carlson had a very different view. Text messages that he sent to an unidentified person in 2021 were revealed in court papers. This is where his real opinion about Trump came out. He wrote, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. I can't handle much more of this." In another message, Carlson criticized Trump's 4 years as president and wrote, "We're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it, because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. But come on, there really isn't an upside to Trump." 1 month before that, he criticized the former president's business abilities and claimed that his only talent was to destroy things. Quote, "He could easily destroy us if we play it wrong." Basically, Carlson was worried about the extent of Trump's influence, given the fact that he has a very large following and most of those people were viewers on Fox News. So their relationship has always been very complicated because it's just so intertwined, which is why he never came out and publicly criticized him. Judging from a ton of their internal communications, it's safe to say that most people working at Fox, from newsroom employees all the way up to Rupert Murdoch, all knew that there was no election fraud. Of course, they didn't actually believe it themselves, but they still aired these false claims anyway out of fear of losing their viewership, which was mostly a Trump fan base. Carlson was also going through a lawsuit of his own, this one brought against him by former Fox News producer Abby Grossberg. She claimed that he had fostered a toxic, misogynistic work environment where unprofessionalism reigned supreme, and the staff's distaste and disdain for women infiltrated almost every workday decision. So right now, it's no secret that Fox News is pretty much fighting for their life as a network. They're facing yet another billion-dollar lawsuit, and Tucker Carlson's name is right in the middle of it. So when you look at it that way, it's easy to see why he was let go. But his fan base seems to have been blindsided as well, because so many of them are now taking to Twitter to express their outrage at the decision. Even Trump said he was surprised to hear about it. Yesterday, he sat down for an interview on Newsmax and said, "I was shocked. He's a very good person and a very good man, and he's very talented, and he had very, very high ratings. He's been terrific, especially over the last year or so, and he's been terrific to me." Tucker Carlson has been at Fox News since 2009, where he helmed the popular show Tucker Carlson Tonight on the weeknight 8 p.m. slot since 2017. While it was on air, his show was heavily criticized for pushing questionable theories and racist narratives. In fact, it's amazing that he managed to survive this long professionally, given how much controversies he's been involved in over the years. But somehow his show became the most watched in primetime cable news. So that certainly says a lot about his viewership. Another big TV personality who got fired yesterday is Don Lemon. In a shocking turn of events, he was also let go without any warning from CNN. He co-anchored the morning show with Caitlin Collins and Poppy Harlow for about 6 months. Well, it's pretty crazy that they were both fired on the same day, for very different reasons, of course.